هي صوت شارع إيران يرتفع في الخارج وعلى أهم المنابر الدولية ليكون وقعه أكبر داخل إيران وأكثر دويا في أروقة النظام الإيراني. إنها الممثلة الإيرانية العالمية نازنين بنيادي التي تحمل على عاتقها صوت الإيرانيين والإيرانيات، تتكلم باسمهم إعلاء لقضية وطنها وأبنائه لتكون خير ممثل لهم، وهي واحدة من أهم مكونات نسيج وطنها المخطوف منذ أكثر من 40 عاما. فماذا تقول نازنين اليوم لأخبار الآن عن واقع بلدها، عن الحرية فيه، وكيف تعمل في ظل التهديدات والمخاطر على حياتها؟ أي رسالة توجهها لخامنئي؟ وبرأيها ما الذي يجب أن يفعله العرب لدعم قضية الشعب الإيراني؟ الممثلة نازنين، أهلا بك في أخبار الآن. في البداية، الحكومة الإيرانية تستهدف كل من يرفع الصوت في وجهها من مشاهير وغيرهم يتحدثون ضد ما يحدث من قمع وقتل. هل أنت خائفة اليوم وكيف تحمين نفسك؟
I think there's always a risk when you speak up against a autocracy or a dictatorship or a tyrannical regime. Obviously, the same tactics that they're using inside Iran to silence people, they've tried to use with dissidents abroad. You've had, of course, the case of Atmasi Alinejad and the unfoiled kidnapping plot against her in Brooklyn in New York. You've seen the attack against Salman Rushdie in New York. So there is absolutely a risk. There is also cases of people being kidnapped from abroad, countries abroad. We don't talk about Ruhollah Zam, an Iranian journalist who was kidnapped by the Islamic Republic, taken to Iran and with a sham trial and executed. So dissidents absolutely are at risk abroad, and I'm fully aware of it. I know that there are smear campaigns against me. I know that there's constant attacks online. There's a cyber army dedicated to this. But, you know, the amount of love and the amount of support that the Iranian people inside Iran who are seeking freedom from that dictatorship have shown so many of us outside of Iran, encouraging us to continue. There is no other option for me. I will continue to be their voices. I'm taking all the precautions that I need to, but at the end of the day, the lives of innocent people are at risk. They are taking the greatest risks, taking to the streets, despite bullets to the neck and batons to the head, dying for freedom. The least I can do is use my platform to amplify their voices, and I will continue to do so.
برأيك كيف يمكن للشارع العربي أن يدعم ثورة الشعب الإيراني، وماذا تطلبين من العرب، وماذا يتوجب على الشباب العربي خصوصا أن يعرف عن أزمة إيران؟
I think it's really important that we show unity in the Muslim world, in the Arab world, in the Middle Eastern, broader Middle Eastern context. The reason for this is we can't want freedom for one group of people and not want it for everyone. This is a broad regional issue for us. And it's not just about compulsory hijab. I think some people think it's just about maybe abolishing the morality police, maybe giving Iranians the freedom to choose to wear a hijab or not. The compulsory hijab has simply become a symbol of the greater oppression women in Iran face. And of course, these protests are not just about women's rights and gender apartheid inside Iran for 43 years. It's because people in Iran don't have due process or fair trials, that they are subjected to torture and forced confessions, that they don't have freedom of expression, assembly. You know, there are so many freedoms that are denied to Iranian people. That's why Iranian men and women are standing shoulder to shoulder against the dictatorship inside Iran. And I think if we all band together and say, you know, as the greater Middle Eastern community, as Muslim majority countries, that this is unacceptable. You know, there's been an image portrayed of Muslim countries that is unacceptable, that this is not who we are. We should all come out and say this, that we demand freedoms for all of us across the region. And you know, the vast majority of people in the region are peace-loving, freedom-loving people, and we should all stand together for that cause.
مم. نازنين، إيران تتدخل في العديد من البلدان مثل لبنان، اليمن، سوريا وأوكرانيا وغيرها. هل تدعين النظام لوقف كل تلك التدخلات والاهتمام بالشعب الغارق بالفقر؟
Well, you're absolutely right. The chants on the street in Iran are very clear. The protesters have said in some of their slogans, you lie to us when you say the enemy is in America. Our enemy is right here at home. Because you're right, the Iranian regime, the Islamic Republic regime, has funded terror abroad. They're not only the #1 state sponsors of terrorism, but they've exported this brand of human rights, their brand of human rights abuses. And whether it's the funding of Hezbollah or it's the Assad in Syria, and now of course drones being used by Russia against innocent Ukrainians. So the list goes on. Houthi rebels, and the region is really destabilized by this regime. So if we support the freedom movement inside Iran, the call of the Iranian people for democracy, for representative government, what we're essentially doing is, helping Iranians create and self-determine towards a country that it makes for better regional neighbors and more cooperative members of the international community. A country that respects the rule of law. Human rights are intricately bound with respect for the rule of law, and there can be no good governance in the long run without the rule of law. If we help the Iranian people achieve the democracy that they're calling for, the region will be better, the world will be better.
ما هي رسالتك اليوم لخامنئي مع كل ما يجري؟
Instead of attacking dissidents, instead of killing children on the streets, instead of imprisoning more than 14,000 protesters, instead of issuing a mass execution of dissidents, how about you listen to your people? Instead of calling them enemies of God, how about you try for the first time in your life to have an ounce of compassion? Isn't that what religion, isn't that what Islam teaches? Compassion? Then I would urge you to do that. But I don't see any way that this regime, of course the people of Iran know this, the reform movement is dead. They've shown us in a 43-year case study that the Islamic Republic cannot be reformed. So the best thing he can do is go away, step down, and allow his people to self-determine towards democracy.
كيف تعملين اليوم مع المجتمع الدولي لحث النظام الإيراني على وقف وحشيته؟
I think the key for me is to amplify the voices of the Iranian people. The Iranian people are demanding freedom. Of course, there's a petition, Amnesty International petition, that was recently closed, and it gained more than 1 million signatures. And the petition itself is calling for an urgent session, a special session at the UN Human Rights Council, to establish accountability mechanism for the most serious crimes committed by the Islamic Republic under international law. That special session, now 8 weeks into these uprisings, and what is the first female-led revolution of our time, that special session at the UN has not happened yet. What is interesting about this petition is that more than a quarter, more than 25% of the people signing this are represented by Iran, so inside Iran. So if you look at the petition, by far the biggest group of people demanding this special session are Iranians, the people of Iran. So this should tell you something. This is a grassroots movement that is not influenced by outside countries. We have to be their voices. But this is something that's happening inside Iran. The demands are coming from the ground inside Iran. And that is the message that I want lawmakers across the world to know. That's why I went to the White House. That's why I spoke at the United Nations. Because I need people to understand that the people of Iran are no longer calling for reform. They're calling an end to theocracy. They want democratic representative government. And we owe it to the people of Iran and to the world, to stabilize the world, support in every which way we can, including access to uncensored internet, and the Iranians' ability to communicate with the outside world, with each other, because as you know, the Islamic Republic cracks down not only brutally on protesters, but also shuts off the internet. It is the Achilles heel, and it happened in Belarus as well, when people rise up, that they shut down, autocracies shut down the internet. And it is communication, the freedom of communication and expression is their Achilles heel. We have to make sure that Iranians have access to the internet and communication across the world. These are the messages that I'm trying to amplify on their behalf to lawmakers across the globe.
أيضا ذكرت أنك تلقيت الكثير من الرسائل المطالبة لأن تقودي المعارضة. ما رأيك بذلك لو حدث؟
This is not something I'm not doing any of this. I've been doing this for 14 years. It's just that in this moment, you know, people are looking for someone to be a leader, and we have many of them inside Iran, outside Iran, who are very qualified and can do this. I am simply advocating for the people of Iran. That has always been my intention. But you know, for me, the word leader doesn't necessarily mean a political leader. You can be a community leader. You can be, you know, representative of people's voices. And if that's what they mean, then I'm honored and I'm privileged to be in that position, and I will continue to do that. I will continue advocating as some kind of a community leader, if that's what they see me as, but I have no intentions of being a political leader of any kind.
كانت هناك لقاءات لك مع أنتوني بلينكن ونائبة رئيس الأمريكي هاريس. ماذا دار في تلك اللقاءات؟
The conversations I had with Secretary Blinken and Vice President Kamala Harris and National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan were exactly what I just mentioned, relaying the hundreds of messages I get from inside Iran to them, and hundreds of messages every day that I receive from people inside Iran saying, please don't stop your advocacy, please don't stop raising our voices, and please tell the governments and the heads of states across the world that this movement, this revolution inside Iran is one that they should be supporting. We shouldn't be making statements about reform and how we can support reformists in Iran. This is about supporting the freedom-loving, small d Democrats, meaning the people who want democracy inside Iran. We have to find tools and mechanisms to hold the regime accountable for their crimes against humanity. And why that would strengthen not only the region, but also the world. And from a very humanitarian, human standpoint, it is a moral imperative that we stand with the people of Iran. I was hopeful when I walked away from my meetings that that is something that the administration, US administration, heard and is taking steps towards. And my hope is, and that's why the UN special session or the UN Security Council ARIA formula meeting happened, at which I spoke. And we're trying to take steps forward into creating more of a sense of unity around this issue, because it can't be one country that supports Iran. It has to be every freedom-loving democratic country in the world that understands the importance of supporting people, the people of a country who are aspiring towards freedom.
أخيرا نازنين، ماذا تقولين للمتظاهرين في إيران وخصوصا الإيرانيات؟
I am in awe of your courage. You are setting an example for the rest of the world of what feminism means, of what women's rights mean at a time, you know, we have always thought that the free world, in the free world, that we are setting maybe the example for what women's rights and feminism are. I've never seen in any country this level of courage that I'm seeing among women who are taking to the streets, young girls who are willing to risk their lives, willing to risk rape, torture, imprisonment, being beaten, sent to psychological centers for re-education. We in the West sometimes worry about, well, if we say this or if we do this, maybe we lose our job, maybe we will lose our income. I'm just in awe of these women, and they are teaching us what courage is, and the contagion of courage. You know, 5 people take to the streets, and then hundreds of people come behind them and support them. This contagion of courage. I hope it's a lesson that all of us across the world can take, to stand with our sisters in Iran, in Afghanistan, anywhere where women are fighting with everything they have for their very most basic human rights. And I hope that the world is listening to their cries, their battle cry of woman, life, freedom, which strikes at the heart of a dictatorship and a theocracy that is anti-woman, pro-martyrdom, and repressive. And I hope we take this lesson of courage away from this situation, and we learn from the women of Iran. And just know that you are not alone. We will continue amplifying your voices. We stand with you. We love you. And there are so many people outside of Iran, non-Iranians, who are supporting you. Please don't give up. We love you.
الممثلة الإيرانية نازنين بنيادي، شكرا جزيلا لك.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you.